Hello and welcome to Making Creativity Pay, the podcast where we talk to people in creative industries about how they promote and market their work. I'm Dan Barnett, and joining me on what is episode 100 of the podcast are comedians Hannah Platt, Ruby Carr and Kat Higgins, who are all performing at this year's Edinburgh Fringe. I largely stay out of things, and it was brilliant to hear from three great comedians and how their styles and attitudes to things like flyering and social media differ, as well as the things they have in common. We talk about poster design, fringe finances and lots more. I started by asking them to give a brief introduction to themselves.
Hello, I'm Ruby. Sorry. Yes, Ruby Carr. I don't know. This year would be my second hour at the Fringe, but I think it's my hang on. I did but my fifth show at the Fringe. So second hour, but fifth show. Weirdly, my where I'm have to be after this is one of my day job is I train scientists how to do stand-up comedy to improve their public engagement and science communication, which is wonderful, and it's helped me do more comedy because I have more time available because I specialize in this. And then tomorrow or the day after, I'm at the Edinburgh Fringe, so doing all of the other festivals as well. And I did a load of research last year on what would be the most effective festivals to do this year, and I will tell you exactly how that went.
Fantastic. Hannah?
Yeah, my name's Hannah Platt. I'm a comedian. I'm based in Manchester, but I gig all over. So this is also my second show. Me and Ruby both did our debuts in 2024, and then we had a year off to recoup and think about what we're doing with ourselves, and decided, let's go again. And yeah, so I'm doing my second show that I'm taking to the Fringe that's called Cult Classic, that is on at Pleasance Attic every day at 7:15 from the 5th.
Already Hannah is so much better at the marketing and brand because she said what her show is and I forgot.
In fairness, Ruby, that fits with the brand.
Yeah.
Go on then, Ruby. Did you quickly want to mention the show?
It's called Bite Me. It's on at Hoots Nick 9 on before the next person who's about to speak. We're back to back in the same room.
Yes, Kat?
So that's me, Kat Higgins, on at Nick 9 at 5:10 with my show In Memory of Me, which is my debut show. So it's my first time bringing a solo hour to the Fringe, but sort of similar to Ruby, I've actually only ever done one split bill, but I've worked at the Fringe in previous years between flyering, running a street team, producing. But now I'm there and it's me. It's all about me, baby. And I am based in Ireland currently, which I'm sure we can get into, but I have been based in London and I'm back and forth. I'm currently in London right now. So I'm kind of here, there and everywhere. I'm a woman of mystery. I'm either on a plane, a bus, or a train at any given moment of time.
So, so you're saying, you obviously got lots of other experience, but it's your first year. What are the kind of things that hopefully Hannah and Ruby have kind of said to you that kind of hopefully help you make the most of a debut year?
No. Don't do it. No. No, it has been really helpful. Ruby in particular Ruby's kind of like my stage mom. Not that Hannah's not great, but Ruby is very much like, this is what you're going to do, and this is the best way to do it, and you should do everything I tell you to do. And honestly, she's generally right, although sometimes I still just don't listen to her because I'm lazy and I'm obstreperous. But no, it has been really helpful, I think, having... I have quite a few friends. I kind of, for various like health reasons and financial reasons, like haven't been able to do my debut when I maybe would have liked to have in previous years. But the sort of upshot of that has meant that a lot of my friends have gone and done previews, and they generally have really good advice. One, it's okay that you keep losing your mind and thinking like, I think me and my show are both terrible. Maybe I can't be a comedian. They're like, oh yeah, that's normal. And yeah, I think more sort of in some ways some great practical advice, and then in others, but I'm quite lucky given my previous like working at the Fringe experience. I think I have quite a few of the practical insights, but I think like sort of emotional and mental support has been like really great from people like Ruby and Hannah who've gone before, and they're just like, yeah, that happens, and you're like, okay, I'm not crazy.
When we were coming up on the circuit, so me and Kat came up on the circuit roughly around the same time. I really thought, I was like, oh, there's a cohort of my friends that we're all going to debut the same year, and I'll have like my group and I'll have like a support network for everyone. But then I think COVID and for a whole series of things, everyone ended up being delayed by like just not happening in the same year. And so I was like, oh no, I'm not debuting with Kat. And I felt really sad. And so that made me go through the list of debuters. And I found Hannah on the list, who had also come recommended by someone else. And I DM'd her and was just like, we're both debuting. I think we should be friends. And then I went up to Manchester.
Yeah, Ruby was like, because I met Kat at the Fringe when me and Ruby were debuting. So Kat met me midstream, like mid,
Yeah.
being like, what is my life? I don't know who I am. My head is on, my head is off. What is happening? And yeah, Ruby messaged me being like, I'm doing a work in progress in Manchester. You should come and be my friend.
Which is obviously
that's
how
how
Ruby
an
makes
audience.
most of her friends.
Yeah. Inviting them to shows.
She collects them like
1 PM at a
Pokemon.
time. Yeah, I really do. I do collect people. But it's like, yeah, I think it was really useful having someone else experiencing it with me. And so having Hannah and our shows were nearly back to back. So my show finished and like half an hour later, Hannah's shows would finish. And so I would, after my show had finished, walk over most days to Hannah's show and go, hello.
How did it go? How were we feeling? It was good to have someone to debrief with every day, which was like, we were finishing around the same time. So then it was like it was raw, and we could both be like, and then
Yeah.
go for a drink and calm down. Like, it was very good. But also the downside was we were kind of on at the same time, so we could never see each other's shows. So also there is a little bit of part of that where you're like, oh, if Ruby comes up to me going, oh my God, it was the worst one I've had. And I'm like, I think if I was there, I'd be like, it was great what you want about, so you can't talk someone down, you know.
I can't believe we're 8 minutes in and you're telling lies already. I never had a bad show.
Oh yeah, sorry. No, I mean more. I don't believe you had a bad show. I mean more emotionally, you feel like you can't perform it
What?
as
Oh,
well.
Yeah, no, that's
but
true. That's
But
very
also,
true.
to back Hannah up here, Ruby, I doubt you ever did have a bad show, but I'm absolutely certain you said you had bad shows. Hannah had to jog you down off that ledge.
Not out loud. Well, this was always one of the pieces of advice that I give people for the Fringe and any festival, in particularly because we're all artists, and Kat would have heard it, and I've told so many other debuters, is don't tell people you're having a bad time if you feel like you're having a bad time, because like especially at the Edinburgh Fringe, there is thousands of shows going on all of the time at any point, and people at the Fringe, they love to feel like they've got their finger on the pulse and they know what the cool show is and what the good show is, but they can't possibly see them all. So a lot of people rely on word of mouth. And so if you tell someone, my show's going amazing, I'm having a wonderful time, people love it, I'm having a great time, I'm enjoying myself, like I couldn't be having a better time, then people will tell other people that because they don't have enough time to come and fact check. So I'm like, I think
part of that is true. Like, it defo is true. But also at the same time, you do need people like us three that like we trust, who aren't going to be like, hey, Ruby had a really bad show today. Like, it's like you've got to have people where you go,
safe space.
I think, you're like, I think I'm losing my mind. Why did I bring this show up? This is the worst. There's not a joke in the hour. And you're like, yes, there is. And you're like, yes, there is. Like, it's very good. You're doing really well. You're doing really well. Like,
you're doing really well.
You're doing really well. That's Ruby's family motto. You're doing really well.
Because it's interesting, kind of, talking to quite a lot of people who, we're a couple of weeks away.
3.
Don't say that.
But yeah, 2.5 to 3. Because some people are starting on the 3rd, which is crazy.
Yeah, when do you guys start? I start on the 5th.
Who starts on the weekend on the 7th?
Oh wow. Okay.
Know,
oh,
right?
so I'm gonna be like 2 shows in. I'm like,
Yeah, but you get previews.
I still I just count them as I'm like, once I'm there, it's the show. There's no previews.
I'd like a little test run.
Well, I think that's one thing that Hannah did really well in your debut year. Like if anyone wants to look at someone who did an amazing first show, Hannah did a brilliant first show.
Oh, thank you.
Even though we were on at the same time.
Yes, you don't know.
I saw how many I came to previews.
We did a lot of whips together. Yeah,
I saw the show. Did I see the show post? But I have seen the show. And also, I was there when audiences were coming out, and all of them were going, "Wow, what an amazing show! What an incredible time! What a great show!" And the other evidence of like how I know that Hannah had a great show is that I don't want to like big you up and make you feel like, oh, but like truly, when I like walked around Edinburgh and I'd see Hannah's big poster, and I remember what Hannah's big posters were because I found them and I sent photos to her, being like, look, I found your poster.
Yeah,
they would have
Ruby sent me before we went up. Ruby was there, and Ruby sent me a selfie of her with the poster, and I got that excited, and I sent it to my producer, being like, but because it was mirrored, the image was the wrong way, and he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," and I was like, "No, it's not." He was terrified that all the posters he'd put up on his production stable were flipped,
and I was
Oh my
delighted
God.
by it.
It's a
Someone
the
who's been a
picture is
producer.
you like.
As someone who's been a producer and I've sent those out of hand. The panic that I can only imagine the panic.
But Hannah had on her big poster, like by like the second week of the festival, just like filled with wonderful reviews of people who had enjoyed the show, and production publications being like, great show, great show, great show, great show, great show. And one of the things I know you did is that you had reviewers in on the very first show, which people often avoid because that's scary and you want to, maybe there might be a tech issue, maybe there might be something, or you're not quite ready, and so people avoid that. But because you were like, yeah, you can come on in, I guess then people were like, great, I can go see Hannah on the first day. That gives me someone to go see. And they're already, you had a buzz around you, and you were on some lists, and you're a great comic. And so that just really started the ball rolling, I saw.
I do think that's really important, because especially, I don't know, if you've not got like a huge push behind you, if you're already not like a buzzy person with a big profile that people are excited about, if you're not on Taskmaster or something like that, you've already got something behind you. You're going to run out of opportunities for people to see you, like for publications to see you and people to review you. You don't want anyone to be like, oh, well, you clash with someone I'm actually excited to see and review who I already like. They're kind of also taking a punt on you when it's your first show, because they might have seen you and still like your work, but they've not seen you do an hour. It's a new thing to you as well. So you do want to give them like every opportunity to be like, look, I'm here, come and see it.
Yeah.
And in terms of getting reviews, because it's interesting, I'm on the media list. I've got about 400 emails from people doing shows. So my way of dealing with it is just stick them all in a folder, and I will look at them at some point. But when that point comes, I don't know. Maybe September. I'm not sure. But in terms of kind of getting people in, I mean, what do you kind of think the kind of trick, but the kind of the techniques to kind of say, like you said, there's thousands of shows. Why should they come and see your preview as opposed to anyone else's?
Is that from an industry or from like an audience point of view?
Yeah, I think
guess from I guess both. But I mean, if you're starting on an industry side, so yes, getting a reviewer, the ideal is you get a 5-star from the Guardian, the Scotsman, superb, and you've then got the momentum that will carry you through the rest of the month. That's the ideal. But But everyone wants that, and there's only so many people they can review.
I think, one of them would be letting people in as soon as possible, right? As we just said, that would be really effective.
Yeah.
And then it's also like, I mean, press releases, you need them to sound more than just, it's a stand-up show. Like, you got to have a hook, something that makes someone go, oh, that's different, that's unusual, to try and convince people in. For good PR, it's annoying because it's expensive, but you pay for what you get, because having someone who's really well connected and knows the reviewers and the publications, and then knows when to message them, knows how to email them. The publication cares about their email because they're like, I trust this person. That is really effective, but it is a cost. It can be done without. But it obviously will just require more energy and input on your end to make yourself seem buzzy and exciting.
I think if you've got like I was just going to say, I think if you've got like a good like elevator pitch of your show, like if someone goes, what's your show about? It's really hard to say what your show is about when it's just stand up, especially for your debut. Like, Kat, I know that yours is like quite personal. So then when you're just like, it's about me, it's like, okay, like.
I mean, this show is literally called In Memory of Me. And they're like, what's the show about? And I'm like, all about me. Like,
yeah.
But
especially
it's not,
with the debut,
but it
it's going
also
to be your introduction.
there's more to it than that, but it's also, I do think it's hard when you're debuting because it's one of those things where I think once you've like gone up and done a show, you've had some reviews, people at least even know your style of stand-up. Do you know what I mean? Like I know what, you know, that Ruby is like daft and funny and high energy and like silly, like, and whatever the content of the show is, it will be in that sort of like through that lens. And same with Hannah, it'll be like dry and like witty and things. And people who know me and have seen my stand-up like know what I'm like on stage. But to anybody else, I could be an alternative comedian, I could be a character. Like it's one of those things where I feel like you even need to like establish just like where in the sort of genre you are. And then also like what the subject matter is. Do you know what I mean? But I actually think sometimes what people, unless it's like a very specific subject matter, I think generally people are like great, like what people will be in the mood to go see, like, you know, people come to the Fringe, they want to see like Shrek the musical, you know, like people want to go see something mad, something funny, something whatever. So there'll be, I think, like for me, having done marketing and stuff for other Fringe shows before, sometimes it's about like making that as much clear as much as the content of the show is, because some people just want to see stand-up, right? Some people don't want to see clowning or whatever else. And then, but then there's even within, you know, stand-up, me, Ruby and Hannah all do very different things on stage. So I think trying to get that, and that's the thing that almost is like in the elevator pitch, I find for me, like debuting anyways, I'm trying to be like, I'm Irish, I'm loud, I'm like,
Yeah.
Here's the origin story.
Yeah. How did she become so annoying? Like that's kind of it. But yeah, and then the subject matter as well that like needs to be disclosed. But it's funny because we were saying about, and I think you were saying about like getting people in, and I do think it's one thing to try to get like reviewers and stuff in, and like you said, PR and good PR, but also sometimes like I kind of think, and this is like my general thing, is that like there is no better advert for you than you, if that makes sense. And so whether that's like doing loads of previews and getting word out there about your show, or like my number one thing, and it's kind of what I'm putting my eggs in my basket about, is like self-flyering, like you flyering your own show, or like doing mixed bills or being up there, like people seeing a bit of you will make people want to see more of you. And that and the word of mouth is absolutely gold. And I think even like if you look at last year, like my mate Roger O'Sullivan, like the word got round that Roger was sort of under, his venue had pulled out on him like 2 months before, a month or two before the Fringe. He wasn't signed, didn't have a PI, didn't have a production company, but everyone in like those who knew Roger as a comic are like, he's a really good comic. So then comedians rallied around Roger because they were like, God, he lost his venue as well and he doesn't have a structure. So Alison Spittle really helped him out. But then like all of us who kind of knew were like, oh, go see Roger at the Fringe, go see Roger at the Fringe. I think just comedians' recommendations was what, but like, because Roger didn't even have a press release. I helped him write a press release the week before the Fringe. He was like, do I need one of them? And I was like, it's the Sunday before you go up. So I helped him. And then, but it was one of those things, I think word of mouth, like Ruby said, that it came from comics. I think it was quite organic, like mates just trying to support someone who'd like had, you know, the rug pulled out from under him. And then that got the buzz going. Then, you know, reviewers came, then judges came. And then Roger, he won the British Comedy Newcomer. He got nominated for the main Newcomer Ish Award. Like all those things happened.
Yeah.
And so I think like that's, and it's one of those where you're like, he's the exception to prove the rule in a way. Like that's not going to happen for everybody. But it also just shows like every year it's a different type of alchemy. And it kind of can be, you know, a bunch of different variables that like help.
Yeah. I think one of the things, see, this is because I don't want to be the person who said, get good PR, because I'm saying spend money. But I think one of the things I've always said is effective, and this works both for industry and audience, is multiple exposures. Like people need to see your show being advertised to them multiple times. So for industry, it needs to be, you've sent an email, you sent a chase-up email, you had your name in a publication, they saw you on a comment thread of something, they saw you in the industry bar chatting to someone, they're like, oh, I've seen this person around, I should book their show. They need multiple hits. It can't just be one email. That's not enough. You need to be everywhere for them. And the same for audience is that they need to be handed your flyer. They need to see a poster of you. They need to hear someone saying something good about your show. And then they go, yeah, I've heard loads of really good things about Kat Higgins. Yeah, I'll go book a ticket. I'll go see that. They have to see it multiple times. And with PR, that's why I'm someone who gets quite easily stressed. Lol. So having someone else,
show.
yeah, come see the show. You'll find out how.
Info.
But having someone who's been able to go, okay, here are all the Q&As that you need to fill out, so that then people see your name in that list, and they see you posting about it, and they see you put it on Instagram, and they see other people post about it. Cool, I'll do that. Oh, do split bills with these people. Go, I'm doing those split bills. Be seen with those. Do this podcast and have a wonderful time on the podcast. Then they'll see you there, but they need to see you multiple times to then feel even more locked in on the idea of booking for your show. Multiple exposures any way that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned a little bit about flyer in there. I mean, it's just some people I talk to, it's a fate worse than death. Others, absolutely, it's everything. It's kind of almost part of the performance. I mean, where do the three of you sit on that?
I am never flyering for my show. I will put people off if I am flyering for my show. I love that Kat was like, it really adds to it if it's used. No, takes away when I do it. I've just not got the personality to be doing that. The people who would like me do not want to be approached. And they don't want to be approached by the person doing it, because then they've got to reject someone and that makes them feel bad, and then they're going to have a bad day. So I need people who can do it on my behalf to sell it, and then I can be like, and here is the product that was promised.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, there is no better flyer for me than me. But I think that's also like part of what I was saying earlier of like, I think I can flyer someone and within 20 seconds they'll be like, oh, it's that kind of a show. Like that's her energy on stage. That's what that will be and stuff. And to be honest, like I think I've seen it like when I ran street teams and stuff. And Hannah's right, like it's one of these things where like within the general like well-being of like I understand that like flyering is one of those things that for every 40 people you try to flyer, maybe you get 2 to take it. So it's like rejection, which in the run up to your show mightn't be like good for you as a comic or like suit you mentally and whatever else. But I think it's also one of those things like Hannah saying, she's like, they'll feel guilty. I'm like, yeah, and then they'll come. That's what I'm banking on. I'm going to make people be like, it's me. And they'll be like, okay, we'll come. I'm like, dead fucking right, you will. Like, I've no problem with that. But that's again about
but
a
yeah,
level
that
of comfort.
fits your that fits the show that you're gonna do as well. Like, and people who connect to that will be like, I want to go and see her. Whereas, I feel like I can't fly for a show where the whole thing is quite deadpan and dry, and you're introverted and quiet. Hey, come to the show. It just doesn't fit. Like, Ruby can fly her with her puppet and everyone will be like, oh yeah, this lady's crazy.
Yeah,
I want to see that.
Spoiler alert, I have a horrible little puppet in my show, and I cannot fly her with it.
It might be
It's
illegal.
got teeth.
It might be actually illegal. We TBD on that one.
It's technically. But also like Kat. I flyed on one of Kat's flyering teams once before because we're both very good flyers. I hate flyering for my own show, which I'll talk about in a bit. But flyering for others, I find much easier. And I wrote up a whole document on like the best way to fly.
That's the most Ruby thing that's ever been said. I wrote up a whole document. Ruby will send me screenshots of her spreadsheets of like how to brush your teeth, and you're like, what is going on?
We know what's going on, Hannah.
I know we do know what's going on. See the show to also know what's going on.
Well, just on flyering for yourself, I want to make a point. When I was running a street team, as Ruby said, that, which I think is true, it is sometimes really easy. If you like and love a show, like I can sell it. Like I can be like, trust me, this is good, this is great, like whatever else. And I think that's clear. I think people know. Like there's loads of people we know up in Edinburgh that'll stand there and be like, flyer, like they're not selling the show, they're just handing out pieces of paper. I would rather, like, I always used to say to my street team, Ruby will know, that I'd be like, if I give you 50 flyers in an hour, I don't mind if you come back with 30. If the 20 you gave out, you spoke to those people and talked to them about the show. That's more impactful than handing out like 50 flyers.
Yeah.
But the thing that I want to say, the caveat I gave earlier, like some people it doesn't suit to be out in the streets, like it doesn't suit their persona, it doesn't suit their show, it also doesn't suit them mentally or emotionally, like to be like dealing with the rejection, whatever else. But I do think there is a thing with, because a lot of stand-ups absolutely could fly their shows, but I think there's this like thing in Edinburgh that's like you shouldn't be seen to be doing that because you should
I'm
almost
too
be able
good
to
to
have
do
a
that.
street team.
Yeah.
And that is bollocks to me. And I'll shout them out that Crybabies, after they were nominated for Best Newcomer, a really great sketch group and stuff. I know the boys and they're really great. All three of them, every single day, used to be out flyering for their shows, which pretty much every day would sell out because they were all like award nominated and stuff. But they were like, we're not too good for this. And there's three of us. We split all the money 3 ways. There's barely any money. There's 3 of us. There's enough of us to be able to do this. And I actually, every single time I, as a comic, see an act flyering for their own show, I'm like, I back them so much because I think they're there to get, like, for me, I think Edinburgh can get so big and there's so many, PRs and posters and like street teams. But actually, like, I'm there to do a show and I want audiences to come see me because I want to build my audience. I want people who want to come see my show to come see my show. And I think the best way to do that is to be out there. And also, like, asking people to come to my show. I'm like, I'm willing to do it in person. Like, I'm willing to get my hands dirty and like I'm invested in this. I put so much into it. And I think that like comes across. And so just the status thing, which I have heard people say, like ages people who are like, it's not great to be seen to be like flying show. It looks like whatever else, I think is utter. I violently oppose that view.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I'm not saying I don't think I'm like too good to flyer, and I will happily at the end of a show be selling merch at the end because then it's almost like I've had the show as an introduction. So then it's like, oh okay, you know what you're getting. So when you talk to me, and I've done a whole show explaining how I come across like a bitch, but I'm actually all right. Then if I'm talking to someone and they're like, oh, can we get a selfie? Or like they want to buy a tote bag or whatever. If I'm a bit grumpy, they won't take it as, oh my God, she thinks she's a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, no, no.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to flyering, I'm someone who's very good at flyering, but I also get very nervous going up to people. So I have lots of like, I'm a nervous lady, but I was effective at flyering when I needed to do it. My best techniques, I mean, it's doing something rememberable. It's doing something like I remember one year when I came up to watch something, there was when I was watching things, I was a teenager, but there was I remember the show, it was called Truly Medley Deeply, and it was a trio of boys who did musical comedy, and they sell out every day, and I knew this because I would see them on the Royal Mile every day, stood there, with one of them with a guitar, the other two there, and they would ask girls, and they knew their target audience, they would ask women and be like, give us 3 songs. And like these women would stop and they'd say 3 songs, and then they would just make a medley of those 3 songs on the spot. Hugely talented, like an amazing thing to do. But then, like, that was the most interesting thing happening on the Mile. And we all know the Mile is incredibly busy and filled with circus performers and everyone shoving a flyer out. But these guys just took a moment and went, hey, you specifically, give us 3 songs. And then they performed a bit of their show and they had people in. Doing something interesting. Kat one time did a conga line of people to get them into a show. I always talk about that. You conga line people in to just go, get in.
Get
and
in. They didn't even know where they were going, but they were going to a show.
Trick people in. Hold them hostage. Lock the doors.
Flyering doesn't have to be. I don't view flyering as just like standing on the street trying to chat a stranger. Of course it is, but it can also be like going around, like when you're in the bar in a restaurant or something. If someone's like, "Oh, thanks very much," to them, be like, "Sorry, do you mind if I just give you a flyer?" I'm actually doing like any interaction you do with someone. If they're like, "Oh, that girl, like held the door open for me," and then or helped me pick up my stuff, or it can be big and it can be small, but I think the idea, I just know of people who have like gone into debt paying for street teams, but not flyering for themselves, mainly because they thought the idea, like when they'd be capable of and probably be okay to do it. And also part of me is like, it's supposed to be a goddamn fringe. Like as much as it's become this like mad thing, like I was at, what's it called? Buxton. I looked at my water bottle there to remember. I was at Buxton Fringe last weekend, and like I was out in the streets flying, and it was honestly like nice. It like got me in the mood for Edinburgh. But there was no like that's the vibe of a a little festival. People were like, "Oh, I didn't know we'd a fringe. Oh, there's comedy or whatever else." Get people in. That it's not, yeah, it's supposed to be that like that'll get people in.
Yeah, you say you're on straight after Ruby, so are you hoping for a captive audience? You're going to kind of lock the door.
Yeah, I'm just gonna listen. They'll get a loud woman talking at them very silly and daftly, and then a loud woman shouting at them about herself. But like they just but the tent annoyingly doesn't. I don't know that it's fully secure, but yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah, you can't lock a marquee.
No, frustratingly.
That's another like useful way of getting, like I always tell people, like you can flyer on the street, but if you don't want to be flyering, if you're worried about that, find shows that you think have your audience in them, that you're like, this person's very similar to me, this person has a similar theme or topic. Find those shows and just exit flyer those. If you can, message the person who's doing the show, if you know them, or if you don't, just being like, would you mind shouting out my show at the end? Because people will take your flyer if you stood outside, but they will 100% take your flyer if the person on stage went, oh, outside is going to be Hannah Platt, who's got, I've already said Kat, so I thought I'd show it up. Outside we've got Hannah Platt, who's got an amazing show. You absolutely have to go see it. Grab her flyer, book a ticket, make it. If then the audience are more like, oh, then you're going to have much more success with getting those people.
Yeah. And in terms of times of the show, do you think you'll have a different audience at 3:50 than you would if you were like at 6-7 o'clock?
Yeah, it's a different vibe of it. It could be the same people, but they're, I mean, on the week, it's hard to tell when people start getting. I did a show one year that was at 11:30 in the morning, like the morning show. But I still had people coming in with pints. You were just like, okay. And then other times,
it's a holiday for most people, so they're like, oh yeah, we'll just book things in the day and we'll go and see, airport pints. It's like Fringe pints.
So
it's a festival.
I think the riskiest, I mean, even the one I'm always like, about is like midnight, because I feel like at least during the day, they could be already, had a drink, or they could be just having lunch, or they could be like, there's only, but it's at midnight, they're either very drunk or very sleepy. That's the one I've never done before. And I'm like, that would be, but I've had people having amazing times with it because it's more chaotic.
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of show that you're doing. If you are doing like a crazy chaotic clowning show where people are getting on stage and are a big part of it, that makes sense to do it at midnight. But like my stuff can be quite like dark, and I feel like people it's so silly, but people are a little bit reluctant to like laugh at dark stuff in the day because they're almost a little bit like, oh, but it's morning. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's almost like at a time when like a gig would be on, so like I'm at 7:15, that's like a regular evening comedy gig time. People are like, oh yeah, this is what happens. People will say the C word and we won't be like, oh, not before 2 p.m.
Yeah.
I see. And in terms of doing a show, your first one maybe is a bit more about you and you've got your whole life. Is it that kind of difficult second album where, your first one, you've got a whole lifetime of experience and trauma and whatever else it may be to kind of work with.
You see yourself, like.
But then the second one, you kind of, you've got a blank sheet of paper and you kind of think, well, what do I fill this with? And how does it come together?
I think that it's hard. Also, like, difficult second album as well is part of it. Like, I don't know if you're similar to me, Ruby, where it was a bit like, oh, you can pull from the whole time you've done stand-up. You can pick and choose what bits you want to do. And you can create almost like a best of. Even if it's on a theme, you can still have jokes that you've written throughout your whole career, right? Whereas this one, you're doing it in like a year. So it's like, go. Not only is it just like, oh, I've got to start again. It's like, I've got to start again. And this has got to be done and good within a year.
And Hannah's brilliant, and she's doing exactly that. I just feel like I'm just going to reiterate that.
Oh no, it's just more that it's like it's a new challenge, and it's a challenge that I've enjoyed. And like, I don't know if you feel similar to me, where it's like you kind of, it's almost like an endurance thing where you're like, can I do this? Like, can I get this done? And
We
doing
do
it does
this
feel
a
like an
lot.
achievement.
Like when you've been like on the way to a new material gig, being like, okay, I'm going to try this, this, and this out and see what works for the show and things. Like we've kept updated on the developments of building a show. I think also like doing your do the first show, whether when you do the first show and then you've like come out of it, you realize how much of a stronger comic you are. And like the pressure on writing. For me, it's slightly different because my first show, traditionally, not always, but like traditionally, people's first show is, you know, as you said, about them. This is me. This is the introduction to me. I'm introducing myself to the comedy scene on my debut. Here I am. I changed my mind as I was applying for my show and decided to do a show about my favorite website, which is eBay. And in a way, that is an introduction to me. But did I say anything about me specifically? No. And so I ended up writing a whole new thing for the first show because I would end up sitting down with my friends. I think Kat was living with me when I started buying some of the things from eBay that I was becoming obsessed
I was.
with. Yeah.
Hoarder's
I'd be like,
paradise.
oh, the thing going to the door's going, Ruby's been on eBay again. I actually think I have here a dress you bought me from eBay without, and I didn't ask. I just, Ruby was like, I saw this dress and I thought it would fit you and look nice. It does, but yeah, it was a
Thank
real
you.
thing. She went through a real phase.
And so because I kept like sitting down with my friends and talking at them like for 20 minutes at a time about something I spotted on eBay, they were like, you should do this as a show.
Also,
like,
would be down at the pub or doing anything and Ruby's alarm on her phone would go off. She'd be like, I need to win an auction, and then like head off and do it. And I was like, this is insane behavior.
so
Maybe write a comedy
that,
show about it.
Yeah, that ended up being my first show. And so writing for that, like writing for a specific topic, I think really helped hone my skills. So then this year, I was like, right, I'm going to do the show which all of my material before was about, which was about mental health stuff. And I was like, I'm going to do this show. And then I got Invisaligns and I was like, I'm going to do a show about Invisaligns. But now it's both. It's both. They're overlapped. Not
Like
my teeth
teeth.
anymore. Heyo.
But what was that? You know, 'cause I was talking to some people. You know, there'll be something that happened in their lives, and I'm kind of interested between the time between the thing happening, you know, quite often a bad thing, sometimes a good thing, and them thinking there's a great show in here. You know, can be moments sometimes.
Yeah, it's sometimes like about like a big through line for my first show was about people calling me ugly on public transport, and it happened, and then like literally like on the way, it happened like on the way to a gig, and I cried when I got off the tram, and then on the way, and then when I sat in the gig, when I sat in the gig, I wiped my face and wrote about it, and then did it then, because it was just there's something that I like my thing at least is writing about it helps me process what's happened and like what I actually feel about it. So sometimes it can be like, oh, this is an awful thing that has just happened, but my way of realizing, well, what do I think about it and why has that bothered me so much is through trying to get comedy out of it, because I'm like, you take it to the most ridiculous point, and I do that a lot in therapy where it's like, well, why does this bother you? And then it's like, oh, it's because it reminds me of this, and it goes back here, and it's a similar process to writing.
I think it like for me, it's one of those where like since doing stand up, like I kind of not to be like ooh, but I feel like I already know Ruby, Hannah, this that so I had surgery last year and it was on my vocal cord and I like couldn't speak for a long time, but I'd already started writing my debut show and I sort of know like when I'm excited, like I'm really excited to do my debut, but partially I'm also excited to do the thing that kind of said of like, or like you were saying, like this, some of these jokes I've been saying for years, you know what I mean? And so I'm kind of excited to like put that down and be like, right, clean page, gotta go. In a way, like I feel like I'm getting in that way now. But I know I'm going to be writing about that experience because it was a weird experience. It was unique. It was funny. And so like during it, like Ruby knows this. I just kept a notes app on my phone of like all the things I knew I'd forget that were like, funny and mad about it. And like Hannah said, like I've had things where like, like I've had like a terrible one night stand and then like got on stage that night and talked about it and been like, this happened this morning. Here I'm going to tell you about it. It was a Valentine's Day fundraiser for abortion rights. So like the room was very on board with me shitting on men and having a bad one night stand. It was a very sex positive gal pals room. But yeah, sometimes it can be instant. But then like in my debut show, I talk about my brother who passed away. And so like that happened a long time ago. But I think it wasn't until a couple of years into doing comedy that I was like, and it is like me and my brothers would make jokes about it all the time. We'd be like, whose turn is it to empty the dishwasher? Well, where's that prick gone? Like, like we would make jokes, but knowing like, oh, can I joke about this in public? And like, is this, because when me and my brothers would make jokes like that, or I'd be like, oh, like, can't believe Mike isn't here, whatever, like funny things, friends or other people, like Hannah would say, like, it's a bit dark. And so people would get a bit like, oh my God, did she like, what? And so I think almost like took longer, but I think, and I'm not sure like if I, touch goddamn wood that, if I lost a brother now that I am a comic, I'd automatically start seeing it through the lens. I hope not, because I hate the idea that you like are always looking, and it's kind of one of those things sometimes when something shit happens to me and you message a mate. It's always the non-comedy mates as well, who will be like, oh, this happened. They'll be like, well, you'll get a bit of stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I had a shit thing happen. Like, I know I'll make it funny, but like, don't. But yeah, so I think it varies. Like, last year was a tough time with all my voice stuff, but I knew I was like, I'm gonna make material about this. But yeah, my brother and like that kind of thing, it sort of, I think I had to, because it's like a delicate enough subject, not even necessarily for me, but to like have the skill to be able to like bring that into a room, like to say what I want to say, but also keep the comedy and the humor and the tension, like to manage what that is. I think it took me a while as a comic to be able to have the skill to be able to do that well, which I think I do in my show. So yeah, I think it can vary, like that bad or good thing happening in your life. I think it depends like what it is, and also like where you're at in terms of your like career.
I feel like we're all inherently storytellers. We're all people who quite regularly will, are telling stories on stage, and we're thinking about how's the best way to release this information. That is the skill of being a comic, of like, what does the audience tell this so that you get the biggest impact at the end. And so because I feel like I'm a storyteller, I feel like I'm always, something will happen, and then as I'm walking away from it, my brain is just going, someone today will ask you, how are you? What happened today? This is how I should tell them what's just happened. Which is something that I just do naturally. And then I think also I'm a sort of person who ends up in situations and then accidentally make it worse, kind of person. But I try not to do jokes or comedy about something that I'm currently experiencing. Because as someone, again, who's anxious and is in therapy at the moment, I need to not immediately go, like I have to process that and actually deal with it, so I'm a stronger person. And then later on, I'll make some jokes about it. Like, with my therapist currently, we have a deal where it's like I'm not allowed to, even though I'm doing a show about OCD and I'm currently in another bout of therapy for my OCD. The show I'm currently doing is about the first batch of therapy I had for it, and I'm not doing it about the second batch because I want to be very present in that and not in the back of my mind making notes. And then sometimes goddamn therapist will say something and I'll be like, that's rude. I can't believe you just told me that. That's hilarious. And I want to say that on stage and I'm not allowed.
Yeah, I once had a therapist roll their eyes at me, and I was like, that is illegal. I don't think that's against the law, actually.
That's bananas. I had a therapist tell me, I live the world like therapy. But I had a therapist once be like, I know you're not trying to be funny, but it feels like you don't know how to talk about this without making it funny. And I was like, well, God damn it if I can't switch it off. Like,
put that on the poster.
Even when she's not trying.
You talked a bit about posters earlier. be interested to kind of talk through your kind of process. I've seen yours, Hannah, and I've seen yours, Ruby. I don't think I've seen yours, Kat. I don't know if... But, so Ruby, you've gone for traditional in a way, you're kind of single colour, but obviously slightly different with the teeth. And then Hannah, you've gone kind of a bit more full on outside shot. Just be interested to kind of talk about kind of the process of kind of putting it together and whether you felt it was like a kind of, it's a nice project in itself, completely separate to the show.
Yeah,
I
I love
love
getting
Hannah's-
photo shoots.
Yeah, Hannah's poster this year and her debut year are both exceptional.
Oh,
They are
thank
also,
you.
they would have done a lot of, like when I said about multiple exposure, that is a poster that people are, when you see all the posters together and you see, so your debut year was like, you had your hair in this beautiful, like sort of, it was like, I'm going to say bouffant, I don't know, but it was just like, it was out, teased, and like wavy, and then you just got a drop of blood coming down and you're just very elegantly touching it. And you're just like, what the fuck is that? And it doesn't scream comedy because it's not someone being like, I'm a big goof. But then you obviously then everything that's on it is telling you, oh, this is a stand-up show, come see it. Hannah's
Yeah.
posters are always so artistic and eye-catching. And
Oh,
like,
thank you.
well, you messaging me being like, oh, I'm doing my photo shoot. This is how I'm doing it. This is my style. This is my board. Like, yeah, what she's done is really good and it's incredibly effective. Something that definitely people should look at.
Oh, thank you. I've always got like a very specific idea of what I want it to look like. Like this is fun for me. Like I know a lot of people like getting a photo shoot or doing a poster or like the design stuff. It's like a slog and like it's not something that they enjoy doing, but like it's a really fun part of it for me because like I love fashion. I know I'm wearing a t-shirt right now, but it's in a lovely time t-shirt. I look like I love fashion and I love like an aesthetic and it's something that feels quite underused in comedy. So I want to use that part of it to create like a visual language, and especially with like posters for something where it's like you get to decide the visual language that you're talking in to your audience, and if they connect with it, they're gonna want to see it, and they might never have heard of you. They've got no idea what that show is like, but they're like, what is that? Like, that's intriguing to me. And then I want those people to be like, oh, I get all those references, or like, oh god, that looks like The Wicker Man. I love that. That's my favorite film. I'll go and see that or something. Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Ruby. That's very sweet.
I told you as you were doing it, I was like, these are amazing. Like it was really good.
And Ruby, on yours, I guess, did the idea for the kind of the look of the poster and the title, did that all come just like instantly to you? Just thought, bang, this all works, or was there a lot of to-in and fro-in?
It was at the previous, so last year's Edinburgh is when just before I went up, I decided that I was going to get Invisaligns. And so then I was up in the Edinburgh Fringe and people kept asking me, they see me and go, oh my God, Ruby, do you have a show? Brag. But I was, I was going, oh no, not this year. And I was saying, instead of going up to Edinburgh, I've decided to get Invisaligns. And then I'm going to do a show about it and they get a tax write-off. And then like people were laughing because I was just doing a stupid bit. And then I was like, oh my God, maybe if I do this. And I came up with some of the ideas that the show, like I had the idea of the puppet in Edinburgh and I was telling people about it and they're like, what? I'm like, I don't know. I was just spitballing. So that came up with the thing of like, okay, I'm going to do a show about teeth and mental health. It's a dental mental crossover that no one asked for. I did that, and then I was like, oh, I think it's going to be, I started spitballing. I think I texted Kat a couple of times about it. I think I decided with Bite Me, because it felt, it's like tonally fits what I'm sometimes like. Just like a little aggressive, but it's like a bite. It's not actually like a hit, so it's fine. And then, but it's also to do with teeth. So I was like, okay, I'm going to call it Bite Me. And then I messaging Hannah and seeing how much she was doing for her, like I'd like knowing how successful her posters have been before, and she was like, "Oh, this is you told me what like to look at on Pinterest, at magazines."
Yeah, because I remember you were like, "Oh, I want to do something glamorous, but I still want it to be kind of silly." And I was like, "Oh, you know who's glamorous and silly? Drag queens. Like that is a great like they have such a good reference point for being like." So comedy drag queens can be like, oh, they're so glamorous, but they look daft, or there's something that's off. And the idea of having like almost like a glamour shot, or like a school picture day where you've got like the ridiculous mouth spreader thing is like exactly right. Like it's exactly that.
I really like that, and I looked for it. The thing is that I love the glamour of yours, but I realized it just wasn't. It's not me. Like, I'm not a glamorous person.
But you still have a little bit, you know. It's still like it looks tongue in cheek because you are trying to do like a.
Yeah, I got messages from other people when Ruby posted her photos, being like, "Oh my god, Ruby's photos look amazing. They're so class." So you look gorge, whether it's you feel like it's glam or not.
At Dino Shutter on Instagram. She took my photos, which is great.
Also, I remember I helped style you for that photo shoot because you bought stuff from a charity shop and you were like, how do I put this together? And I was like, put the shirt under the pinafore dress.
Team effort was needed.
And how have you found it, Kat, the process?
Yeah, it's so funny because I've had the idea for my poster for a while. So it is it basically is like a fake memorial card. So it's like clouds and my photos just like in a frame, and my name and date in memory of me is kind of the way you'd say in loving memory on a memorial card. And I've had that idea for quite a while, but then just the actual process of getting the poster done has been sort of maligned by a bunch of different things. I was supposed to have photos taken, and then my suitcase got stolen off the train, and I didn't have any clothes or anything. So I was like, oh, let me push this back and try reschedule it. And then I couldn't reschedule it with that photographer. So then I was like, okay, I'll find a different photographer in Ireland. And then I had a dental tooth infection, but then I got an infection in my bone. I perforated into my, what do you call it, your sinuses. So then I had to cancel that. And then I was just kind of in not a great place. And this sounds insane, but genuinely, I feel like Hannah will know what I mean. I really need to get my hair done, but my hairdresser didn't have any appointments done. I was like, I'm not getting photos done with like 2-month-old roots or whatever else. So then, hello.
I'm trying to hold mine off until right before
just
Fringe.
before the Fringe.
So then
I have to get mine done on Saturday because it's my best mate's wedding next weekend. So I have to get it done Saturday. So by the end of the Fringe, it's going to look like this again. But whatever. But it's a real process, the hair thing. And then I was supposed to work with a certain designer, and then they, completely understandably, had some issues come up, and they were like, I'm really serious to work with you, and they tried to recommend me to one or two others, but the designer I was going to work with is a friend, and so sort of doing mates rates, and then other designers were too expensive because I also got made redundant. Hence why I had to move back to Ireland, because I also got evicted. This is all in the show, don't worry about it. So in general, I was like, do you know what, I'm going to get these photos done. So I went to a self-photography studio and managed, because that's like cheap, managed to get them done then, and I've designed the poster myself. But I've still been finalizing it, which is why I haven't posted it. It's kind of the problem with doing it myself. I do love it, but I keep. Yeah, I can send you.
Thank you.
Something, but I kind of was like,
too.
I will. I mean, I will post it properly.
I just went on your Instagram to see if you'd posted it, because I was like, I haven't seen it either, and I just had a look, and there's some great shots, but not you're posting it.
The other thing of being made redundant was also that then I realized that I'd already committed to certain things like my PR and whatever else. All of a sudden, financially, I was in a very different spot, and I didn't get any of the funding that was out there that had been slashed. So then I was like, I actually can't really afford outdoor posters. So I have venue ones with hoots, but I don't have any. Also, the whole confusion between Out of Hand and the new company. I don't know if you know that.
It's been horrific this year.
Honestly, and also the costing then was all over the place. And I emailed them a bunch, and basically then they wouldn't give me anything that I could afford. They only offered me more expensive stuff, and so I don't have outdoor, which is really annoying, and I'm really frustrated by. But it also meant that I didn't have a print deadline to have to push towards, apart from my flyering and postering one, which I'm still well within. So yeah, it's annoying because I even know the people, because I've done marketing for production stuff before. I know the people at Out of Hand, but this year it was a shit show. And I think acts like me and a lot of people, because I know, having worked for a production company before, when I'm like, hi, I need to book for 7 or 8 of my acts, so we're going to spend X, like it's all coming through us. X amount of money, they'll get back to them quicker than little me, who's like, hi, I'd like 1 or 2 spots somewhere, please. So all the availability between the 2 different people and the different deadlines that were on a certain day, they opened it, and within like an hour or 2, it was madness this year.
Yeah, and they
So that
kept
is
like,
something that I would like to highlight as being like a fucking shit show. That
oh, it's been
and I think
nuts. And
Yeah.
also horrific for your debut as well, where it's like because I feel similarly, because it's my second show, so I was like, I understand what happens now. No, I don't, because it's
no,
changed.
because even as I had other producer people reaching out to me to be like, do you understand? Have you heard anything? Like, no one heard anything. No one knew what was going on. And I still emailed all the people that you normally email and stuff. And it is funny having gone from being, I realized I was like, God, I normally get a better response. And then I was like, oh, it's not about me. It's because I'm normally asking for like
Yeah.
7 or 8 acts. So I'm normally being like, here's the guts of 5, 6, 7, 8 grand. And I'm here being like, I can only spend like, 500 quid or whatever it is. And so I was not a priority when there was so much. And I get that. I think between Out of Hand and the other company, I can't remember their names, they must have had an insane amount of emails going on because no one knew what was happening. So everyone was just relentlessly emailing over and over and over again. I was asking for the same thing off both of them. And I was like, hopefully someone gets back. And yeah, it was just a general shit show.
Yeah, their website didn't work. People were getting refunded. People were paying thinking that they'd solidified something, and then it got refunded because they sold it to like 8 people. It was ridiculous.
Exactly what happened to me. Yeah, exactly. And then when I went back, they were like, here's what we still have left. And it was like, I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, do you want a billboard? Do you want a billboard?
It was like
Murrayfield Stadium.
Lamppost ones, which I'm like, they're not great anyways. I just want my like 2-sheet. And yeah, no, I don't have it. Which is really annoying. Because I even just think as, like probably Ruby and Hannah will say like, when you're like, oh, when I go to the Fringe, you're like, I'll have my big poster and I'll take a photo in front of my big poster. And if I get nice review, like I'm very lucky I was already named in a list from Rolling Stones and stuff, which is great. But I'm like, oh, I could get that printed and slap that on there like when I'm day 1 up at the Fringe, but I don't. I will be slapping them on my posters that are in my venue. But I think
Slap
it was
it
just
on your
another
flyers'
thing.
heads.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is, I can still edit my flyers, so I'm debating. This is why I haven't posted it because I'm like,
that's really good.
That literally came in as I was like, oh, it's done, and then I was like, but yeah. Anyway, this is like a thing where marketing wise, you're like, does it look better to have the thing stapled on because you're like, this is fresh and hot off the press, or on the flyer? But I think stapled on. But this is where I've been.
Oh, you just got to then staple it on. That's annoying.
I'll do the stapling. I'm good with doing that. But yeah, so it is one of those things that, not to be the little old whatever, but like PR is something I've paid for and I always knew I would, and I committed to it early. And I worked with someone who I've worked with acts I've worked with before, and like Lily, I genuinely think is great and is so brilliant. But between being made redundant, getting evicted, then not having an agent, I really shifted the type of Fringe I've been able to like do. And I've I sort of say this in the show, but I genuinely sort of thought maybe I don't do it. But I've already waited a long time for my debut, and I just sort of thought, fuck it. I was always going to self-produce because I've produced before. I know how to produce, but not, having all the marketing that I'd like the Out of Hand, and not having an agent, not being in a big 4, those types of things. But I think if you back yourself, and the thing I do love about Hoots for me and Ruby are is it's a pay what you can venue. So people can buy tickets in advance or they can come in if there's still space available. And I think in this economy, like having seen it at Fringes around and even last year, I think if you're a debuter and you're unknown, actually getting people to pay money outright to come see me when they don't know me is quite a barrier. So in any big 4, I've got to do that. And I applied to Monkey Barrel. I didn't get Monkey Barrel, but Hoots, I'm like, do you know what? That's fine. Come in, take a punt. You don't just come in, sit down. If you want a free show, it's affordable. And then it's my job to deliver a show for the next hour. But then when they walk out, they're like, no, you like that is worth what I've paid at Pleasance or Assembly or whatever else. And so I honestly, it was kind of a marketing decision to be able to be in a venue where I'm like, because again, being a debuter, for me, like, yes, I want, don't get me wrong, I'm unemployed. I got made redundant. I'm a full-time comedian. I need money, but even with the big venues, with the splits, the way it works, it's very, very hard to make money. And I kind of want to build an audience. Like, the reason I'm doing all of this is because I want to have an audience. And I generally find when I get in front of people, not to like toot my own horn, but generally when I'm in front of an audience, people are like, that's good. And I like that. And I'm like, right, word of mouth. As we say, I don't think any posters, any PR, any reviews work as well as the word of mouth does. So let's just try and me on the streets, throw people into the room, get them to come see it, and then hopefully word spreads. But
Don't join any conga line at the Fringe.
Yes.
It will be for Kat's show.
watch out for me running conga lines directly into my room at 5:10.
Yeah. So I say, yeah. So Kat, you're talking about the pay what you can. So that means then a bucket speech becomes more important. I mean, are you? How are you both on that? 'Cause it's almost like it's flat.
Kat's
it's
just
flyer
done
in
it.
class,
Look
isn't it?
speech at you.
I've written into the show that I got made redundant and evicted in the same week. Yes. Because you got to lay it in there early. No, but I sort of think it can feel a bit gross, but also I think it's Ruby. I think it's one of those where like I think my show is worth. Like, I think my show is good, and I back it. And yeah, I think I kind of think it's almost like a slightly more like honest way of doing it. I don't know. Maybe I'm slightly burned from like Leicester Comedy Festival. I was actually born in Leicester, and so I have loads of aunties and cousins. They borrow in. I had a good crowd in at Leicester, and all of them are like, "What do you mean you haven't been paid? We paid. We bought tickets to see you." And I think audiences sometimes really don't know like where the money's going or how. And I think people, even like comedy lovers, know the Fringe is really expensive and people don't make money, but they don't really understand because they paid a good enough amount of money for a ticket. So like, what's happening? So I think in some ways it's slightly cleaner because then people are like, tap, and I'm like, I get that money. Like, you've just given that money to me, and it's a more clean transaction in a way. I don't know. How do you feel, Rubes?
With bucket speech, again, I am an anxious person. But I know that when the bucket speech is a part of your performance. Don't treat it as a separate thing. The bucket speech is part of the show. Because if you then go, oh yeah, you don't have to worry about it, because now you're doing the gross bit, which is asking for money, then they're not going to worry about it, and they're just going to. Whereas I've seen people have the classic lines of like, oh, put whatever you can in the bucket, if you can just fold it up, and then like, ha 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 ha, funny joke. But sometimes you do have to say, like, this is a business. We are trying to make money. We're trying to recuperate. If people have been able to come in for free, I think that's amazing. I really like that it's being able to give people access to the show who maybe can't afford to buy, 6 £15 tickets every single day to see a load of shows. If people are like, oh, I can take a punt on this, I can squeeze in for free, there's a spare seat at the back, I'll go sit down on that. And then on their way out, encouraging them to pay at the end. They still might not pay the full amount that's at another venue. But you just have to be like, this is my show. I've had a wonderful time performing to you. I thank you so much for coming along. These are the really effective things. And if you, at the end, if you can pay, if you don't like asking for money, like I don't, I think it's gross. Saying, if you pay, I will give you this. And so I'm buying a bunch of stickers. And anyone who goes, there we go, tap, then I get to put a sticker on them. So I even though I've just given them the show, I also pay just a little bit of money. I got a load of stickers that say clinically kooky. And so then I feel less gross in that moment. I'm able to double down on, hey, I need a break even somehow.
Ruby's also got a slightly other thing in her weapon in I will be at the door. And I have no problem being like, she's great, tap. I also think genuinely, but like the preloading the amounts onto the card reader is like a set rate, so that you're like, yeah, that's, and then you're like, oh, less, oh, okay. I know it's, but like, as in, make it £8 instead of a fiver, or £7.50. I have it as instead of a fiver, because people might do a fiver, and you're like, that's just not these days. A fiver doesn't even get you a meal deal barely. Like, like it just needs to be a bit more. But yeah, I don't know. I think it is one of those things where if you feel like you have a good show and you back yourself, I don't know. I think it can feel gross if you like, depending on how you perceive it. But I'm like, it's not. I'm like, so, it's because it's got your feet in it, almost like the way the
Yes.
flyering does. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I'd rather stand there and look at someone and be able to go, thank you so much. Because I genuinely like when people buy tickets to come see me, people choose to spend, like, I'm broke. Like, I get what it is to want to go see loads of stuff and have to be very selective about where you spend your money. So when people choose to spend their money with me, I am genuinely so grateful. So I almost view it as the opportunity to be able to see that and genuinely be like, thank you so much. Oh my God, yeah, photo. Oh, absolutely. And also,
Yeah.
like with the show, there is certain, personal content. I touched on grief and stuff. And sometimes people really like to talk to me about that afterwards. And so it also like gives an opportunity to do that, but it also gives me the opportunity to kind of do that, but keep the line moving in a way, because sometimes like you can get bogged into that. But yeah, I kind of view it as like being able to connect with your audience in a way that feels quite like honest.
Yeah, I've always a conversation, like, the thing is, we're all artists, and when you go up to the Fringe, you're filled with loads of artists, and there are people there who are like, I'm just doing it for the art and the love of doing it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it for the love of doing it, but I'm doing it so that I can make this my career, to make money, to be able to continue existing. Because if people are like, we're so appreciative of people coming, and we understand that people have different financial situations going on, i.e. us. But you do have to be a little brutal sometimes. Like, you've got to be a bit business minded. You have to be like, okay, what is the best financial decision here? If I'm doing that, then okay, tomorrow's show is down badly, so I have to go flyer to make sure I get in enough people so that I have audience, so that then I can do my bucket speech at the end, so I can make enough so that I've brought back. Because sometimes people go up to the Fringe and they haven't looked at the numbers. They haven't looked at what, and it's like, you can have a nice time and say, oh, don't worry about the bucket, and then you're not going to be back at the Fringe ever again because you did not make enough money back. So as much as we love the art of it, you also have to have that little cynical business person inside of you who's counting the numbers and being like, nope, come on. If you're selling yourself, you're here to do your show and to sell yourself. Why are you failing at the last hurdle?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, is that the show's the show. You treat it as art. It is art. But then if you can get an extra 30, 50 quid a night from the bucket, that makes an enormous difference longer term.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
So talking about other methods of funding and everything, Hannah, I know you've got an album on Bandcamp of one of your shows. I mean, it's quite an unusual place to put it in terms of.
I didn't want to put it on YouTube because it feels like, one, like most of my stuff is not that visual, so it doesn't feel like a show that's necessarily one that needs to be like seen in that way. And also it's incredibly expensive to film a show in like high quality, hiring a videographer, hiring like amazing cameras, hiring a room that looks great. I'd want to do something interesting with it visually if I was going to do that, and I'd want to put a lot of money into it. Whereas my tech in 2024, Delphi, is amazing technician and records albums all the time, so they were able to set the room up in a way where everything could be heard and all the laughs were picked up as well as what I was doing. And we just recorded the last show because it was like a nice memento to have, and also now I can release it, and so if people couldn't make it, they've got no excuse.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing, Kat, you mentioned about funding. I know there's a bit more of a push in Ireland about recognising comedy as an art form.
Yes.
I mean, have you been involved at all in that, or kind of seen that? And do you think that Ireland's doing better on that?
I think so. Yes, I think historically Ireland's been worse, but currently they're making strides to be better. But there's like Ailish McCarthy was, who's a great comic. She was a big sort of catalyst for this, in that essentially it was similar to the UK for a while, where Arts Council or arts funding in Ireland, comedy was not included. So you couldn't, as a comedy show, comic venue, anything like that, have any comedy funding. And it again sort of came to a head, I think similarly to how it did in England, where in COVID they were like, oh, this is how we're going to support the arts. And they ran it through arts council funding, and everyone was like, but that doesn't support comedy and comedians at all. But I think it's been part of a slightly wider conversation that's going on in Ireland, which is great. In like we are a nation that is like known for our cultural output, right? Our films, our music, our plays, our comedy, and we generally as a like country do a terrible job of supporting it in any way. So like in school, like drama isn't a subject in Ireland. You cannot do drama or arts or anything like that in school. Growing up and things. So there's been strides sort of across the board. And so one of the big things that is great is the basic income for artists, which is essentially a scheme where artists across, and comedy is included in it, are basically given I think it's 310 euros a week as a basic like living allowance to allow them to not have to basically work a million jobs to be able to produce art. So it was a pilot scheme that ran for 2 or 3 years, and then this year in the budget it was approved to go forward. So it was really great, and it was part of one of the reasons why when I got made redundant and sort of evicted, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go home, because I've always wanted to be more involved in the Irish comedy scene, but it kind of feels like at the moment there's just more happening in Ireland in a way that there is like funding, there's some opportunities and stuff. And also just kind of culturally, like, don't get me wrong, times are tough across the board, but I feel like financially right now, England feels a lot more constricted. Ireland as a country, at least the government, has money, and there's a huge housing crisis and stuff, but people, I think, have more disposable income. So like when I moved home, I set up a comedy night in my hometown, and like, it's so funny because I speak to English comics and I'm like, the ticket prices are like 15 quid early bird and then like 18 quid. And people are like, oh, pretty expensive. And I'm like, it's actually one of the cheaper nights that like in the area, like outside of Dublin, most nights are at least 20 quid. And it sells really well. And I've been able to like pay acts a good fee and also make some money like myself. And so it feels like, I think in Ireland, there's kind of like, culturally, like we're more interested in our own output, which I think for a long time wasn't always the case. We always kind of looked afield, especially for comedy, to like England and America for stuff. And I think now we're finally like looking internally. And I think, it's people like kind of Joanne McNally and stuff like that who've shifted a huge conversation as well, particularly for women, because in Ireland, like you wouldn't see female comics on telly. Like Ireland's a good sort of 10 years behind like the UK on that front and quite a few fronts. But like Joanne doing the longest run ever in Vicar Street, and like Joanne's doing the 3 Arena next year, so Kyla Cobbler, like people like that, and Emma Doran and Deirdre O'Kane. What I've noticed at my night is that there's a huge female audience now in comedy, and there are people who've just never been to comedy before. It's like reached outside of, the kind of classic Tommy Tiernan, Tara O'Brien, like, Des Bishop, that lads, who all of whom I see involved and whom I love and do have female audiences. But it feels like there's something like that's sort of for women specifically there. So I think between all of those things, there's definitely a kind of vibe in Ireland at the minute that's going forth. The funding stuff is kind of like anything. I applied and, it like some of the questions, some of the things I'm like, this as a comedian, I can't answer. This isn't how comedy works. Like, it's not like a theater shit, it's the way the forms and things are structured. A lot of us were sort of in What's the Cruise being like, that's not how this works. But I think it's a step in the right direction. And hopefully things like, as they sort of have comedy now in the forefront, they sort of learn how to like cater, implications of funding and things for it. Because it does work differently. We don't necessarily always have a theater venue that has like a contract. It's a club and I'm doing a spot. Like it's a different kind of way of working. But yeah, I think it's a really good sign, and I think it's something that hopefully England recognizes, that like, and the UK in general recognizes that like supporting, because they did this pilot scheme of the basic living allowance for artists, which was 300 quid a week, and they showed that for every euro spent, more than €2 was produced in the economy for it. So like arts isn't just something to fund, it also like is an economic like sector that produces a lot of money. It like profits the country, it creates income. Like, my night, we were selling tickets. The bar that I run it in, like they do the biggest sales they've ever done on Thursday when my gig's happening. Like People are booking babysitters. People are paying for taxis. Like, it generates economic income and activity, and
I don't
it's
want to
just
shit
always
on
been
other.
sidelined.
I don't want to shit on other art forms.
But
Okay,
But
Timothy Chalamet.
I was just gonna say that don't be coming for ballet because
I'm coming
they.
from ballet. No, what I mean is that stand-up in particular, like as an art form, is one of the cheapest to produce. Because you can do a stand-up show that just needs one light, one mic, one person. Doesn't need you don't necessarily need all of the like flourishes. People do love adding the flourishes, and I think that really adds to a show. But then you have those things. You just have one person who you need to finance, a mic and the light to put it on, and then you can entertain a room full of people. As you said, then they buy drinks at the bar with paper babysitters. They do all this. Like it's has the least overhead costs. That's the thing. Like stand up has the opportunity to have the least overhead costs, and therefore can produce like a good amount of profit margin. If you are able to sell it well. Obviously, then we do like adding in the flourishes of like a second light. Wow. Going on stage. But it's really, the fact that like comedy is not included on the Arts Council in England is just like, why?
I think I sort of my theory is that because comedy is the most readily accessible art, both as an audience member,
Yeah.
but also as an act. So like so many art forms, you have to buy a violin or go to ballet lessons. There's these like financial barriers to be able to access so many different art forms. But stand up, you sign yourself up for an open mic, you give it a go. If you're good, you can get booked. You're like anybody from any background can be in comedy. And I think that's sometimes what almost like works against it is that it's not something that's necessarily elite, and the elites who often run things and fund things don't recognize how important and pivotal it is to have accessible routes into any art form. So many comedians go on, Billy Connolly was an Oscar nominated actor. Like it is one of those things that can bleed, like, comedians can be amazing writers and directors and all sorts of things. And I often, like, for me, I tried being an actor and I just couldn't whatever else. And then I found comedy and I was like, oh, this is what I want to do because it gives so much agency to you as a performer. But I think sometimes because it doesn't have a velvet rope holding it back from anyone else, it's not behind gilded doors or in a nice fancy frame, that it's often very undervalued. But in actual fact, I think it's so important. And I think honestly, politically, not to be like that person, but like these days that it's one of those things where I actually think like actively not funding comedy and satire in this like in this current political climate is dangerous. It's dangerous to not to ensure that like dissenting voices or just comedic voices will be shut out financially from being able to participate in things like the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, the world's biggest comedy and arts festival. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
So one thing I often talk to people about is social media, and the kind of it's a whether some people see it as a necessary evil, some people love it, some people go nowhere near it. So I'm interested to kind of think, especially now, in your head, you're going to think, right, I'm going to be on social media for a month, get some tickets sold, and then disappear, or you think, no, it's useful all year round.
I've just been like, because I'm kind of anti-social media just because it melts my brain and I hate it, and I think it makes everyone anxious, and like, comedy isn't a competition, but then when you're looking at social media all the time, you're just constantly comparing yourself. It's really hard not to. The only thing that I like doing though is I do like posting clips. I don't mind posting clips of stand-up because I like doing stand-up, and I'm happy to share it because it opens it to a new audience or people that wouldn't have seen me otherwise. I don't want to do little talking to camera doing a little play because that feels silly and stupid to me. And I don't think anyone would be interested in seeing me do that. But I'll post clips in the run up to Fringe because I've also then got something to promote. So it's like I'm not just putting clips up for clip's sake. I'm going, here's a clip. If you like this, here's where I'll be for a whole month. So I'll do that. But POV, you're on a bus.
No, well, that sort of matches your vibe as like what you were saying about flyering earlier. Like it's not your energy, it's not what your show is for you to do talking bits to the camera for that
Mhm.
sort of area of social media stuff. Like you want to present on social media what your product is for stage and when you're performing and things. And so you getting presenting your stand-up clips is much more effective of selling what you are on stage as opposed
Yeah.
to, and some people are like, technically, because of my energy, I should be better on social media. I should be. I just, again, sorry, what have I said it before? I'm anxious. So, like, I
It
guess
makes you more anxious because
it makes,
also then posting something, there's the anxiety of
yeah,
doing it, editing it, being like, will anyone watch this? Who will care? And then like posted it, and then the the forms of it want you to constantly be looking at it to see if it's
yeah,
good and reply to comments. And I want to turn comments off. I've turned comments off on one of my videos because I was like, I don't like this. I don't enjoy this. What's the point of like? But the algorithm
yes,
wants you to interact with all of your comments because then it pushes it. But
yes.
I don't care. It will
It
make me feel bad, so I'll turn them off.
Yeah. It's one of those things again of that multiple exposure. Posting on social media is another way of putting yourself out in front of the audience and creating a connection with them, and so that they're like, I care about this person, I'm going to then invest my time and money to come and see them. It is a hugely effective tool, and it's really changed how comedy and how people are progressing hugely, because now it used to be you got an agent and an agent would get you your audience. And like since social media and reels and TikTok and everything, it's really gone the other way. Agents are like, where's your audience? Why don't you already have 20,000 people following you? Come on.
If I had
Everyone's doing
20,000 people following me, why would I need you?
it. Yeah. I'm also someone who like I need to do it. I'm sort of forcing myself bit by bit, getting braver as I do it. But my housemate says that it doesn't matter what the news is. I will not like it. If it's good news, I'm not gonna like it. And so I posted a clip like last year or something. And I was like, I just need to post clips. I've done some gigs recently. There's been some high quality footage. I'll edit it up and I'll post it. And I posted one of these clips and then it went viral, and I hated it. I gained like 4,000 followers from this one clip, which is like hugely helpful and really great for like optics and for me posting things and sharing things out. But I was, and lots of like people messaging being like, when are you coming to Glasgow, and people commenting on things and like lovely. Anytime a notification came up, and there were a lot, I was going, "Ah! Ah!" No. It's like it's a necessary evil. It's so helpful in now what comedy has turned, what but performance and selling tickets has turned into. It just still it's also, social media is something that has been designed to absolutely fuck with mental health.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Demands
be
your
the
attention.
change that I want to see in the world, okay? I'm the Gandhi of comedy, okay? So I'm being like, I'm not a content creator. I'm a comedian and I like making shows and I like trying to cultivate an audience. So I'm not bowing to that. I'll do what I want to do with it, but I'm not POV, you're on a
Yeah.
bus. Like, absolutely get out of here.
Well, you don't do buses, as we know.
I do a coach. POV, I'm on a coach. That one's absolutely fine. Coming to you next week.
So coming up to Harperfast, just want to quickly say about odd jobs as well. I don't know if you were going to say about, having a podcast, and then that is social media about kind of promoting that.
Yeah.
And is it coming back? Because I know you've been.
So part
It's
of the reason it's my fault that Oz Jobs is no more because I got made redundant and got evicted and then had to move back to Ireland. And so we had no real, and because Odd Jobs, which I love, we have guests on every time, but you need to then book people and be able to plan it. And basically I was like, I'll be back and forth to London, but it was difficult to figure out a schedule. And then also both me and Ruby were making Fringe shows. And I was like, between doing that, trying to figure out how to financially make it work and stuff. But it will be coming back because I do love the podcast.
But
But it also, I think, speaks to the reason we made it was because everybody in comedy, like, I kind of wanted to dispel this myth that, like, we're all full-time comedians. Like, that's a nice idea, but pretty much everybody has multiple jobs and different hustles, and most people pursuing the arts have done lots of weird different jobs, and we should talk about that. So but it was part of the reason for doing the podcast was because then we were like, okay, well then there'll be clips. It's content but we entirely self-produced it, so it was self-edited. The podcast, the clips were self-edited and stuff. And it is the thing I often like to say when people are like, oh, social media, which I should be doing more. And I think it is a useful platform in that it has sort of democratized comedy slightly in a way that, like, people who maybe wouldn't get seen because they, are able to produce things that people like. But it shouldn't be the only way that people get seen. But it's a job. Like, it is a job. And part of the reason I am great at doing my own social media is because I did it as a job. And, making reels, editing them, making them look nice, it takes time. It takes a skill. You have to become a video editor. And it is work. And so it's not just, I think it looks very simple sometimes from the outside. And maybe POV on bus is really easy. I don't know. I haven't tried the POV bus one. But making up your stand-up and stuff like this, if it's not great quality, which often it isn't, it's a phone in the back of a room or something, but it's a good joke, you got to caption it, you got to correct the lighting, you got to crop it, that takes time. And it also takes tools that sometimes cost money. Like, it's not just as simple as put shit on social media. And also, you're supposed to have a bit of a strategy and stuff. But yeah, part of the thing with the podcast was that then we would have podcast clips. So rather than just having to, like, POV on a bus, we could be like, oh, well, we'll have, like, these funny conversations with interesting people about a funny and interesting subject, and that can be content that then goes out and again feels in line with, like, who we are.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that also that we keep doing POV on a bus. I do have a video on my social media which is me doing bus content, so thank you, Hannah.
Oh, I did it actually to dunk on you. No, I didn't. I just mean more that, like, I did it, like, some of those things are interesting, but, like, some people it just feels very, like, lowest common denominator a lot of the time, where it is just someone being like, oh, POV, we're on a date and it's not going that well, and you're like, okay, well, like, everyone's done this. Why you as well?
Thanks to Hannah, Ruby and Kat for coming onto the podcast. You can find out more details in the show notes about where to find them both online and at the Fringe. If you enjoyed this, check out our other episodes of Variety comedians, musicians, authors and others in creative industries talking about trying to make creativity pay. Thanks for listening.